Blackthorn Castle, a name that sends shivers down the spine of anyone who hears it, a name that makes people scared. The mere mention of it is enough to make the bravest of souls tremble. It sits on a hill, hidden in mist and spooky stories. The castle looms over the village below, shrouded in an eternal fog that never seems to lift. It's been there for hundreds of years, and its stone walls are falling apart. The once grand structure now stands as a decaying monument to a forgotten past. The windows look like empty eyes. They stare out into the world, unblinking and hollow, as if watching and waiting. People who live nearby tell stories about those who went inside, tales of brave adventurers and curious souls who dared to enter, never to return. Not many came out, they say. Inside, shadows move around. The darkness within seems almost alive, shifting and changing with every step. They dance in the quiet halls. You can hear echoes. Are they footsteps? Whispers? No one knows. Blackthorn keeps its secrets. The silence is deafening, broken only by the occasional creak of old wood or the distant sound of something moving in the dark. It waits for someone to wander in. The entrance, always slightly ajar, seems to beckon to those who pass by, inviting them into its depths. It waits for its next victims. The castle is patient, knowing that eventually someone will be unable to resist its call. And when they do, Blackthorn will be ready, its shadows eager to welcome them into the darkness. The investigators came to the castle when it was getting dark. The sky was painted in hues of orange and purple, casting an eerie glow over the ancient structure. The castle stood tall and imposing, its silhouette a stark contrast against the dimming light. As the group approached, the air grew colder and a sense of foreboding settled over them. It was a small group, all curious about the castle. Each member had their own reasons for being there, driven by a mix of fascination and skepticism. They had heard the stories, the legends of hauntings and mysterious occurrences, and now they were here to uncover the truth. Dr. Lewis, the history expert. He had spent years studying ancient texts and manuscripts, piecing together the castle's storied past. His eyes gleamed with excitement as he delved into the dusty tomes, hoping to find clues that would shed light on the mysteries that shrouded the castle. He looked for answers in the past. Every document, every map, every piece of parchment held potential secrets. Dr. Lewis believed that understanding the history of the castle was key to unraveling its present-day enigmas. Eleanor, who could sense things others couldn't, she had an uncanny ability to feel the presence of the unseen, a gift that had both intrigued and frightened her since childhood. Her senses were heightened as she walked through the castle, every creak and whisper amplifying her awareness. She felt like something unseen was there. The air around her seemed to thrum with energy, and she couldn't shake the feeling that they were not alone. Eleanor's intuition had never failed her before, and she was certain that the castle held more than just historical significance. And Arthur, who didn't believe in ghosts. A man of science and reason, Arthur approached the investigation with a healthy dose of skepticism. He was determined to find logical explanations for the phenomena that others attributed to the supernatural. He wanted proof, not spooky stories. They had strange equipment. Arthur had brought along an array of scientific tools designed to measure and record any unusual activity. He believed that data and evidence would provide the answers they sought. Cameras and things to measure energy. The team set up cameras in strategic locations, hoping to capture any anomalies on film. Energy measurement devices were placed throughout the castle, ready to detect any fluctuations that might indicate a paranormal presence. They also had old books and candles. The old books were filled with spells and incantations, remnants of a time when magic and superstition ruled. The candles, flickering in the drafty halls, added to the atmosphere of mystery and anticipation. They were ready for science stuff. The team meticulously prepared their equipment, each member focused on their task. They knew that the night ahead would be long and challenging, but they were determined to uncover the truth. But what about things they couldn't explain? Despite their preparations, there was an underlying tension. The unknown loomed large, and they couldn't help but wonder if they were truly ready for what they might encounter. They were about to find out. As they opened the creaky door and stepped into the darkness, the adventure began. The castle held its breath, waiting to reveal its secrets to the curious crew. They picked the old chapel to do a ritual. It was a place forgotten by time, where the walls whispered secrets of the past. The chapel stood alone, surrounded by overgrown weeds and twisted trees, its once grand facade now crumbling and covered in moss. The air around it was thick with an unsettling stillness, as if the building itself was holding its breath, waiting for something to happen. The air felt heavy there, like it was full of old prayers and sadness. Dust floated in the beams of sunlight that managed to pierce through the broken stained glass windows, creating an almost ethereal glow. The silence was profound, broken only by the occasional creak of the wooden floorboards and the distant call of a crow. It was as if the chapel was a living entity, mourning its own decay. Eleanor led the way. Her eyes were closed. She moved with a grace that seemed out of place in such a desolate setting, her long robe trailing behind her. The others followed in silence, their faces a mix of fear and reverence. Eleanor's presence was commanding, and it was clear that she was the heart of this ritual. Her every step seemed deliberate, as if she was following an invisible path laid out before her. She walked to the middle of the room like something was guiding her. The center of the chapel was marked by an ancient stone altar, worn smooth by the hands of countless worshippers over the centuries. Eleanor paused for a moment, her head tilted as if listening to a distant voice. Then, with a deep breath, she began to chant, her voice low and melodic, filling the space with a haunting resonance. The ritual was very old. People who studied secret things had done it for a long time. The book she held was ancient, its pages yellowed and fragile, filled with cryptic symbols and instructions passed down through generations. Each word she spoke seemed to vibrate in the air, carrying with it the weight of centuries of hidden knowledge. The others joined in, their voices blending into a harmonious chorus that echoed off the stone walls. They said words. Incense burned. The scent of the incense was thick and heady, curling in tendrils of smoke that wove through the air like ghostly fingers. The atmosphere grew more intense with each passing moment, the energy in the room palpable. The chanting grew louder, more fervent, as if they were calling out to something beyond the veil of reality. The air felt strange, like there was electricity. A tingling sensation spread through the room, raising the hairs on the back of their necks. The light seemed to shift and shimmer, casting eerie shadows that danced along the walls. It was as if the very fabric of the chapel was being altered by their actions, bending to the will of the ritual. They felt like something was about to happen. Something was coming. The anticipation was almost unbearable, a heavy weight pressing down on them. They could sense a presence, something ancient and powerful, lurking just beyond the edge of their perception. The air crackled with potential, and they knew that whatever was coming, it would change everything. The first thing they noticed was a whisper, very quiet, hard to hear, then a cold spot. It felt like a cold blanket fell on them. The shadows in the chapel seemed to get darker. They moved and looked like they were changing shape. Arthur said it was just their nerves, but Eleanor knew better. Something was there. It was watching them, playing with them. Her heart beat fast. A cold wind blew through the chapel. The candles went out and everything went dark. Then a scream. Eleanor. She saw it first. A shape appeared in the shadows, tall and skinny, with eyes that glowed like hot coals. Everyone was scared. This wasn't a normal ghost. This was something else, something bad. Arthur tried to turn on his flashlight. The light bounced around the room, but the shape was gone. "We have to go, now!" Arthur yelled. They ran away from where the shape had been. The air felt thick. It was hard to breathe. They were so scared. They raced through the castle. The hallways seemed to change as they ran. Every turn led to a dead end. Blackthorn was playing with them. It was like a maze, and they were trapped inside. They were back in the chapel. The doors slammed shut. Locked. They couldn't get out. Eleanor fell to her knees. She could feel it again. Closer now. It was playing with them, enjoying their fear. "We made a mistake," she whispered. "We shouldn't have come here." Arthur banged on the door. But it was no use. They were trapped with whatever was hiding inside Blackthorn. The room got very cold. Ice started to form on the stone floor. The shape appeared again, closer this time. Its eyes stared at them, full of evil and an ancient hunger. Arthur pushed Eleanor behind him. He stood his ground, but he knew it was hopeless. This was something too powerful to understand, and they had let it in. Their curiosity had a terrible price. The shape jumped at them. A scream was cut short. Then, silence. Blackthorn Castle stood alone again. Its secrets were safe. The mist moved around the bottom of the castle, like the castle was breathing. Did the investigators escape, or did they become another Blackthorn story? Some say you can still hear their screams, a scary reminder of the darkness inside those old walls. Blackthorn Castle had gotten what it wanted, and it waited for its next victims.